Top of the top. Forgive the background noise. I hope you guys can still hear me. Um, that is either the garbage sanitation out here, or that could be possible construction, because I see that a lot of people are getting their some work done on their homes and stuff. I noticed that around here. So forgive the background noise. Now, of course, I could go inside where it is a bit more quiet, but I am choosing not to this morning. It is so beautiful outside. I love the summertime, and I chose to come out and get some morning air. And I have my coffee outside. So I hope you got your coffee or your tea ready while we sip and chat. That's good. So I noticed that, um, and I don't know if you noticed, I'm not even sure, because, okay, one thought at a time. I'm not sure if I um, gave a proper introduction of myself. I believe on most of my content, I explained how this channel got started, but let me just go sort of back to the beginning and give a proper introduction. So my name is Tania, right? And I started this page because I was in such a heartbreak that I honestly did not know how I would get out of it. Um, and you know, it just, I always use a reference, and the reference is that, you know, some people find funny, but it's serious for me, that I would not ever allow a man to Lauren Hill me. And that reference came about because, due to Lauren Hill's separation from her husband and father of her children, um, it had broken her heart to the extent that there were rumors in social media and all different type of media. There were rumors about her mental health. Now, I'm hoping we're all adults enough on this content for you to realize that when you are heartbroken, it doesn't mean if it's romantically or maybe due to a physical death, but when you are heartbroken, it definitely has a high probability of altering your mental health. Um, and I don't say that reference to make fun of her. It's just, in my opinion, it's layman's terms for people to understand how serious I am about mental health for self, and even in relationships. So, my page started, um, now that is, look at this little red arriving here. And this is why I chose to come outside this morning and just take in nature, get some fresh air. And it's been a couple of days since I did a video, but my page started because of my heartbreak, and my heartbreak consisted of me and, of course, who I thought was the love of my life. Mm. He and I have been together well over 20 years. Well over 20 years. Over 2 decades. We have children together. Um, I want to say in the middle of our relationship, but the beginning of another phase. He got caught up in a situation that caused him to be incarcerated and removed from us, his family, taken away from us. And the extent of that incarceration was 13 years. A little over 13. Slightly over 13 years, right? And during that time, I stayed with him during his incarceration. He was incarcerated in 2007, November of 2007, until late September, September 26th to be exact, of 2020. Yeah, September 26th of 2020. And upon his return to society and to his family, I believe that we all expected a readjustment period for all of us, for myself, for our families, for him. But what I did not expect to happen is him turning against me. And I know, it sounds weird or it sounds crazy, but if it sounds that way to you, imagine how I felt. I was honestly totally in the dark about what was going on between us. Why was he choosing to make me out to be an enemy? Why was I an emotional punching bag for him? Why did I have to suffer at the hands of abuse on many different levels, right? Upon his return. And it took me on a mental whirlwind. So yeah, the statement, my personal code of not allowing a man to ever Lauryn Hill me, that statement that I made to myself automatically became a battle for me. Like, I found myself in that very boat, in that very position of allowing a man to Lauryn Hill me, because my mental health was dwindling. I was always confused. We were always in an argumentative state. Very rarely were we able to be cordial, try to get to know one another again, and just have some sort of peace. And that is basically what my content consists of, my experience through that. And I always welcome comments, because I know damn well I'm not the only one that has gone through that. I'm not the first, and I won't be the last. July of 2021. Actually, wow. Wow. Okay, I just had an aha moment. July 21st of 2021. is when he decided, I guess, that he had enough. And he packed up what I had accumulated for him, what I had bought for him over the years of his incarceration. He packed those items up, personal items, clothing, cologne, etc. And he left. And that began another phase of the breakup. Or that began the breaking up phase. Let me say that. That began the breaking up phase. Now, right now, I am doing this video, and it is July 1st of 2022, which means that I am just about coming up on a year of separation from him. And I am going to get into depths about what I was feeling, what my thought process was, just to give you a little bit more insight on how this channel got started, why, and how it has gotten to where it has gotten to. And I am aware that I am letting you into certain privacy in my life. But I'm okay with that. And I just want any potential future romantic interest to know and to understand that I hope this does not deter you or make you feel threatened in any type of way, because I am exposing not just my private life, but a romantic part of my private life. And I'm saying that because I need for you to understand that this won't be you. This won't be you. So you don't have to worry about, I don't want her to get a fucking attitude at me and then, try to blow me up. First of all, this won't be you. This won't be you, because I have learned quite a bit during my entire ordeal of this relationship with my ex. And it won't be you because of that. It won't be you for many reasons. It won't be you because I feel like the situation regarding him, even though it is common in our community, it wasn't common in my life. It was a milestone in my life. And I just don't feel that any romantic relationship that I entertain or involve myself with from this point out will be anywhere near similar. It just won't be. I'm just not in the space right now to concern myself with what you're feeling, to the extent of that I need to reassure you about anything. This is the only type of reassurance that you will get, that this just won't be you. I won't allow it to be you. I got a new creamer. Baby, that coffee good. I am doing a lot of self-work on me, because exposing some of these details has concluded that as much as I want to blame him, and as much as I honestly feel like it is his fault and it has a lot to do with him, there is still some accountability that I have to take. And I so need to That's another reason why I started this page, is because I feel like it is important for us as adults, as black adults, in any type of relationship or situationship, to realize the part that we played in the demise of such relationships. Now, I realized my accountability was being dedicated and being loyal to not just him as a person and an individual, because I was in love with him, but I felt like I had to prove myself on what love really is. And I also faltered because in doing that, I had perceived at some point that I needed to have dedication to our culture. Believe it or not, I felt the dedication and a sense of loyalty to our culture. And here's what I mean. He and I, we have a family together. I was in love with him. I honestly felt like, with all the time that we spent together, I honestly felt like he was my soulmate. And I tell you what I feel about soulmates. I believe that you get more than one soulmate. I believe we don't ever choose wrong. I believe that we attract the person that is needed for us during the time that we need them. Um, Now, what I'm unsure about at the time of meeting or involving myself with particular people is if you're either seasonal or for a lifetime. That part I'm not clear on. After the fact now, I realized that he was seasonal. He wasn't here for a lifetime. It was hard for me to come to that conclusion, but the conclusion is a reality. But I've come to the conclusion now. During the time of his incarceration, it was not his first bid, but it was his longest bid. I felt like um, I had a dedication to the culture as well as him for these reasons. We all know that the government has always surrounded itself and promoted the destruction of the black family. They ultimately know who we are as a people. And I refuse to leave someone that I love in a time of distress, in their time of need, in their time when what society label us as a people, I was not going to prove them right. Um, Black people can't stay together. They're not going to, they can't make it. Um, you know, we're not shit. Our households are toxic, all those negative connotations that's associated with our culture. I refuse to be a statistic of that. On top of the fact of me being in love with him. So even though what ultimately caused his long incarceration had nothing to do with me personally, I was still involved and felt the obligation to stay with him because of the love I had for him, because I needed to prove to myself, and I felt at the time to my culture that I was not what America deemed as a baby mama, or what America says love is with and amongst the black family and in our culture. So I stayed with him. Now, And during this time, um, we had our one son together. He's at the time of, wow, I'm getting some aha moments here, so bear with me. At the time of his incarceration, of this incarceration that took him away for over a decade, um, the one son, the oldest son, was 14 years old at the time, and I was 10 weeks pregnant with our second son. And something happened with him. Something happened, right, that I won't speak on, but there something happened and it caused him to get incarcerated. And the odd thing about it is that at the time, cell phones were difficult to have. It was considered a luxury. It's not as common as it is right now. They were kind of difficult to have, but I had a cell phone, and I was waiting for him to call me to let me know when he was playing with land, because he went out of town on business, and the business was on the West Coast. We were living at the time, and on the East Coast, right? No, yes, we were living on the East Coast. He had to go out of town on some business. It required him to go to the West Coast. He went out of town. Um, I was waiting for him to call. Now, while he was out of town, I was going back and forth with doctor's appointments. My normal GYN appointment. Found out that I was pregnant while he was gone. He was gone for a little while, a couple weeks, maybe about 3 weeks. I can't remember exactly, but he was gone about 2 3 weeks. So during this time, I was back and forth with my GYN appointment. My blood work came back abnormal. That's when they found out I was pregnant. No abnormalities as far as deficiencies, but something else, like your blood count or something, is higher when you're with child. So we investigated that, found out I was pregnant. So all the while I was waiting for him to call me to let me know what time his flight would land, what time excuse me, I needed to pick him up from the airport. But I felt like I could surprise him with the announcement that we were going to have another baby, because after all, our first and oldest was 14. And when he called me, or well, when I got the phone call about him returning, he was actually informing me that he would not be able to return because there was a situation that went left and he was being charged. And at that very moment, my mind and my body felt like it was in a hurricane that resulted in an explosion. There was a high pitch ringing in my ear that anyway, so I was unable to tell him at that moment that our family was extending, if I remember right, because I don't remember getting myself together enough to be able to tell him. So long story short, he was charged, he was convicted, and he served well over 13 years of that sentence. And I stayed with him, and it was difficult. It was difficult for so many reasons. It was difficult because I felt unloved. I felt unsupported. I felt confused because I didn't know all of the details of what happened or what was going on, with him. I was trying to understand why someone I love so much would be, taken away to this extent. What would I tell our children? How would I raise our children? It was just a lot on me, and I never doubted for once that I could do it. I just was upset in conjunction with everything that was going on, but I was upset because I had to do it, and I was upset because it seemed like that no matter how hard I tried, I would end up being a statistic to this raggedy ass America KKK of being a single mom with the father out of the home, incarcerated, and there was so much emotions because also, when you're pregnant, your hormones and your emotions are like a roller coaster anyway. You have not just highs and lows, but you have mountains and valleys. Okay, so I stayed with him. That's my main. Look at that screen. Look at him. That's my main. And I'm going to stick beside him. And beside him, I did. The coffee isn't even cold yet. It's hot. It's just not as hot as it was. Excuse me. And during his incarceration, I evolved as a woman. I evolved as a mom. I found myself in my aloneness. I was not ever lonely. And I just want women to understand that during a time when the creator or the universe or whatever God you serve or pray to calls you into separation, it is for your greater good. It is for your ascension. You need to ascend. You need to grow. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes at those points in your life when you need to grow, you need to be in separation. And of course, while I was going through it, I didn't understand that then. And so I spent a lot of time grieving, feeling resentment, feeling anger. I struggled financially because I didn't have that secondary income from him. I didn't have that support from him. He really was, at that time, at our youngest years, he really, to me, was a supportive, loving partner. I learned a lot from him. We had great memories. He was a very powerful person in my life at a young age, and that is what made me stay dedicated for the years that he was gone in his incarceration, to strap the family on my back and not to falter to society's norms, America KKK standards. But I did, in deciding to stay, I feel like now when I look back, I do think that even though I didn't conform to society's standards and norm, I did very much so take our culture into consideration. I just said, I'm not gonna leave this man. I love this man. We have a family together. I am not gonna leave him. I'm not gonna leave him stranded. He's in a desperate time. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Of course, I feel some type of way about it, but you know what? As a black woman, where the world is always cold and smoke and ashes to our people, I have to put this H on my chest and I have to handle it. And so whatever I felt emotionally, I put that on the back burner in order to catapult myself into a better position financially, emotionally. So there's a lot of things that I didn't deal with that I decided to discard because I thought it would lower my vibration. I thought it would bring me down, and I could not afford to be down because I was with child and eventually, of course, gave birth to our second son. And so I had all of these men, him and our two sons, that I felt like I could not let down. I could not be an absent parent. I couldn't be an absent significant other. I couldn't be so caught up in my emotions about my circumstances that I would let our family falter, and fall by the wayside. And I continued on and I pressed on until his return, September 26th of 2021. I was ecstatic. Yes, through the years of his absence, we kept constant communication as best as we could. That was through phone calls, which I never, ever, ever, ever missed a phone call. That was also through letters. I always, always, always wrote letters. I always send money. I always made sure that he had packages, and during this time I would have to max out my credit cards because the cost of living was going up. I had two children I had to take care of, and one of the means in which I was able to take care of them was establishing credit. I got myself some good credit. It assisted me in helping me take care of the children. So while my paycheck was going to bills, I was living off of my credit also, which means credit went to everything that was still essential but not a bill. So it went to whenever he needed a package, kids' clothes, transportation, things of that nature. And that is how I managed to survive. And then in the middle of the process, I went for a better job, a better paying job, let me say that. And then I was able to really find my footing far as financially, to where as though even though I was still in debt, I was able to slowly but surely climb out of that debt. Once again, trying to put our family in the best position possible, because if America KKK was going to have their foot on our neck, we was going to be a force to be reckoned with. That was my thought process. I kept striving and I kept doing it, and I succeeded. And then during his absence again, I often, of course, thought of him. This was someone that I love with. We kept communication. So I bought him things. I wanted him to have basic living essentials when he returned to society, because I did not want him to feel less of a man because he did not have basic living essentials. So he had, and my family also, who was small, but my family also assisted with me with that. So he had an accumulation of everything from toothbrushes, do-rags, undergarments, clothing, sneakers, wallets, belts, grooming necessities. I mean, everything, because I wanted him to feel good about himself once he returned. I wanted him to know that his presence was definitely missed. And I wanted him to understand that I can't do all the work for him, but I'm able to assist so that the minor things, the basic living essentials, he does not have to concern himself with. He can concern himself with mental healing, continued mental preparation and readjustment to society and to our family. Get his footing back with being a father, being loved, being respected. And eventually I felt that we would be okay, because even though in his mind I knew, or I figured that he would have to get that together, I never for once thought that he would turned me into an enemy. So September 26th of 2021, me and our sons met him at the airport. It was an ecstatic point of my life. But I was getting red flags even from then that I totally ignored because I guess I wasn't ready to accept it. And I mean, at that very moment when he came off of that flight and I hugged him so tight, I broke down in tears, and he was just very passive. He wasn't affectionate. The hug that I received, and then I got kind of a brush off. It was like, don't cry, you're gonna be all right, you good. And it was kind of like it was just absent of emotions for him, and I felt that, but I ignored it because I said, you know what, he is coming from hell. He made it through hell, and it may take him a while to readjust to affection and love and things of that nature. And so I still kept all the red flags that I got from that point on. I kept giving him the benefit of the doubt, until it was blatantly obvious. He made it blatantly obvious that he had no interest in being a part of our family, being a part of me, of us, of a relationship. He did not want it. And instead of him telling me that, I suffered at the hands of abuse. And I'm saying that to say that in its entirety is how this page got started, this content got started. And there's so many lessons that I've learned from that. And all I'm going to say is this. Part of my healing consisted of me learning, and I'm still healing, because in the stages of healing, you realize that a lot of things you accept in your relationship stems from previous traumas that you've never healed, you've never visited, you've never dug in there and understood the concept of it, how to get through it. You've never gotten closure. You probably even never understood why it happened. And even if it was a situation where you can't understand why it happened, you never forgave yourself for allowing it to happen, or you never just asked yourself or went into conversation with yourself and your God to seek healing and closure. And so that is what I think probably ultimately also happened with him during his incarceration, that he never visited. And although he gave me a different impression, he definitely gave me a different impression, but ultimately I see now that he never took the time out to visit any of his traumas, to find closure with them. And now it's okay. It wasn't then, because I didn't understand why at the time I was going through what I was going through with him. So many questions I asked myself. Was this something that I'd done? Is this some type of karma? Like, what is it ultimately that I do to deserve this type of treatment, that someone that I invested so much in cannot simply tell me, I thought I was ready, but I'm not. Instead, he made a conscious decision to use and abuse me. And it is hard for me even to admit that right now, because admission sometimes feels like a weakness. Like, I know I shouldn't, but I feel now so silly that I allowed that to happen. But again, I kept making, excuses because I just refused to believe the type of because I've grown, and I just refuse to believe who this is who he had grown into or who he have changed into. But we're separated now. I've learned so many lessons. When he left July 21st of 2021, that was a time for me to say, that's it. He have tried to return. I did not allow him to return. And our relationship has been tumultuous because now we have a young son involved in the middle. I find myself just being frustrated with him about that at this point. But that is another story, and that will be for another time. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background and understanding of how this page got started, why, and introduce myself properly, and continue on through this page. You will have to get to know me again. I'm going to have to reintroduce myself a few times because I aspire to keep changing and keep evolving, because this healing journey has spiraled into also a spiritual journey, which has me now chasing and transcending or into my higher self, into the best me that I can be. Let me just throw this in there real quick. The whole time of his incarceration, we had been living in apartments. I finally got the opportunity to do all of that because I was scraping and saving and doing what I felt was right by our family. So in February of 2021, I bought a house. Now, when I speak to some people now, because let me tell you something, I was in search of information that he was not providing me with. He never provided me with closure. He never provided me with the reason. So all the conclusions that I have coming from our separation is basically self-drawn and input that I have gotten from other people. And other people was telling me it's possibly that I was moving too fast. And, because he had came home September, and by September of 2020, and then by February of 2021, we were moving to a house. And my answer to that is this: it wasn't intentional to move fast. However, 80% of my decision making was always family based. It's not just that I am not selfish, but I know who I am as a woman. I know what my thought process was. It wasn't about trying to speed and do anything. It was about these factors. One of the factors was we both grew up and was raised in the hood, and I stayed in the hood during his incarceration because the hood was local and convenient to where I worked at. I got the house because I wanted better for our family. I got the house because I wanted to give him a chance. I wanted to take him out of the environment that initially took him away from us. I wanted our children to see a different life aside from the hood, that's not all there is to life. I wanted our children to get the opportunity to relearn their dad or who he is now and in a different space. Because I noticed in the hood there's a lot of Joneses, and there's a lot of fucking people trying to keep up with the Joneses in the hood. And in the suburbs, not so much. If that is the case, I haven't experienced that yet. But what I've experienced in the suburbs is a lot of people are family based, regardless of the fucking race. I'm not talking about fucking race right now. A lot of people are family oriented. They are not so fashion forward, and there's certain pressures in the hood that are not in suburbia. And I felt like if I showed him that, then he would be able to build himself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. There's some things he wouldn't have to worry about. He wouldn't have to worry about going outside to see. And remember, he's gone from society for so long. He wouldn't have to worry about going outside to see a nigga in the latest and greatest and feel some type of way as a man. Even though I had bought him things, it wasn't all fucking name brand. He wasn't going to look like a fucking video star, you know. But I was able to cover the basics doing it on my own. And I felt like if I changed the environment, that it would also assist him changing his perception on what was important and what wasn't. If I changed the environment, he would see that different societies operate differently. And our community now is very family oriented. And I felt like if he seen that, then he would feel less pressure to fall victim to surface level shit like designer name brands and labels and having the hottest vehicle and all of this type of shit. So we got the house in February, and I'm gonna say I think in April my car was paid off. Now because we're in a suburb, I said, listen, I'm going to give you my car and I'm going to go and buy a truck, because now my commute is longer to work. So I need to always be able to get to work. And I know that trucks are very good with terrain. So I am going to purchase a truck. You take this vehicle so you can always have a way to maneuver about. I'll always have a way to maneuver about. So the nigga had a home, he had a family, he had a warm bed, he had a vehicle, he had basic living essentials covered. I covered all of that, just trying to assist my man and readjust, not trying to show him or teach him how to be. I can't do that. I can't show him or teach him how to be a man. I am not a man, but I can definitely be a supportive partner and try to help him understand that no matter what the changes are in society, no matter how fast and different everything appears to be, if we hold on to each other, we'll be okay. And I'm going to help you where I can. And eventually, I guess that worked against me. I don't know. But I've learned a lot. I've also learned and started this channel because I could not continue to carry that type of hurt and pain in silence. I don't know what it is about black women, maybe women in general. I can't identify with all women because it appears to me that not all women go through the same things that black women go through. But I'm not trying to offend anyone if this has been your story. But I realize that a lot of black women are forced to go through things in silence because our previous experiences have taught us, oh, that ain't really your friend, because whatever information she has, she eventually, uses it against you at another time. Or, bitches is this way, people's that way. They talk about you. They only care about, when you're going through something so they can have something to talk about. And it just puts this negative stigmatism on trying to heal the best way that you know how to heal. And so I honestly did not have I felt like I did not have the time, because my job was so demanding, because I was going through this heartache and hurt, and because I still had children to raise. I did not have time to go to therapy, to actually go and sit on somebody's couch until my commute to work got longer. My job got more demanding with doing extra hours, and I just really and then in 2 days off I have, but then I have to tend to my children. So it was just a lot that was going on, and with it just made me feel like there was no way for me to heal healthy, because keeping it in was making it hurt more. So what I did was I started to reach out to a couple of my friends, and then to me that got repetitious and redundant, and yes, they were there for me, and I appreciate them so much for that, but it wasn't enough, because I felt myself in so much pain. I needed to constantly talk to try to release it, and that is how my page got started. And